therapy earlier today. Was it right before this? Because we literally came straight from it, essentially. Like we have like a rule that we have a 15-minute window where we just walk away after therapy, just in case he's like, we've just established that.
That's
so
smart.
we had that, and then we pretty much came up here to put things together.
After therapy, I don't know what's gonna happen in the winter. I always go outside and I just look at my tomatoes.
It's your peaceful place.
Okay, they're still there, and then
good.
I walk inside.
So how recent was it for the two of you?
Well, we just did like a 15-minute like free consultation thing just to see if she was the right fit. So it wasn't like a real like full therapy session. We're doing the first one on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I feel okay. I don't feel like I emotionally taxed myself too much today.
No, it's more like emotionally like we hyped for what we could accomplish, you know, together as a couple. Yeah, I don't know. It just made me excited to think like we're gonna work on this together, you know. We're gonna, yeah.
We're all in this together. We're in love with movies, in love, in love,
Dani and Nic.
in love with movies. Da-da-da.
Hello, movie lovers.
I'm Nick.
No, you're not.
Oh, this is Nick.
Are we still doing that? Are we still doing that bit?
It's funny. It's
There's
still
always
funny.
bits. I'm
Okay.
Dani, apparently.
And this is In Love with Movies.
That's right. And what do we do here, Danielle?
We talk about love and what else, Nick?
Movies.
All
Believe it or
right.
not, it's right there in the title.
Yeah, and today we have a super fun episode because we have people who are emotionally pumped and ready to talk about love. And what movie, Nick?
I actually was going to let our guests let us
Oh,
know
okay.
what movie.
Yeah, Nick, stop talking.
I'm sorry. I'm saying too much.
So, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on our guests for today, Lauren and Emily. You guys can introduce yourselves. But first, I want to call out Emily for being one of the original
I was going to say this.
subscribers to our pod. It was the first movie that
Wow.
I am so honored. I had no idea that I was one of.
fan.
What number? Do you remember? I'm so curious.
What number fan are you? Number
Yeah.
one fan.
Number one.
I don't know.
We don't get the detail of numbers for subscriptions, but I do know that you were at least one of, if not the first ever love note that we featured on this podcast. So listeners, if you go back and listen, giving a 5-star review for us on iTunes or whatever they call it now, you will hear, I think we give your screen name, which includes portions of your name, Emily. And so they could put 2 and 2 together and be like, oh, that's that person I just heard talk on the podcast for a long time. So
Yeah, it's because we have very similar tastes in movies, Emily.
Yes, we do. I feel like I won a contest or something, you know, like.
I mean, listeners out there, we haven't had a love notes segment in a while. So movie lovers, if you want to, roll the dice, maybe if you give us a review of 5 stars and whatever you write, you could literally write 5 stars and say, Nick sweats too much. I have gotten that criticism before from students. I will take it from you. It's okay. If you give us 5 stars, I totally accept it. And who knows, maybe you'll be on a future episode.
So anyways, who are you guys?
Yeah, who are we? So I met Dani at Roosevelt University, my first job out of college. What a throwback. We both have since departed the lovely industry of higher education. But yeah, so moved to Chicago in 2016 and met Lorne in 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm Lorne. That's me. Yeah, I mean, I met you guys a handful of times through Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, I met. So our origin story is that we met at work.
We're a higher ed couple.
Not at Roosevelt University, correct?
DePaul, actually. We met at DePaul University. And we were, I had been single for a long time before that and kind of more or less, like, I think at a certain point just gave up on ever finding anybody.
He used the analogy of like, he's a balloon that's just like drifting further and further away from Earth.
Aww.
Yeah,
right now.
That's
it's the saddest analogy you could possibly make about yourself.
And I remember when
I
I met you.
completely identify with that, Lauren. I can absolutely understand the way you were feeling, and I felt very similarly. You just get disconnected from humanity when you
do. You definitely do. You spend a lot of time, like, you know, I had dated. I had a lot of like relatively shorter term relationships. I dated a lot for a while. You know, when the apps came out, I started using your Tinders and your Hinges and stuff like that. But like, and it was very fun and exciting at first, but then, you know, that stuff starts to get boring and routine, and people get jaded towards it. And, you know, dates became fewer and farther between. I think when I realized I couldn't do dating apps anymore was I went out with a girl who I realized like 10 minutes into the date that I had gone out with 6 months prior, and she didn't realize it.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
alone is such a story.
It was a nightmare. I was like, get me out of here.
It's literally the plot of an episode of How I Met Your Mother.
Truly it is.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. And then I just was like, shut it down. This is it. I'm alone now. I'm not dating anymore.
Fully gave up, and then here I came.
Well, yeah, and that was like a few months before, you know, maybe a few months before, maybe a couple months after I met you, but like, do you want to kind of explain?
Yeah. So we met at work, and it was a little bit of a complicated situation. But I feel like when I met Lauren, I just thought like, this is someone that I really just want. Like, I thought he was too cool for me. And I was like, I just want this person to like me, you know, and I want to like know him, and I want to like, you know, be his friend.
I was her direct superior. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. We were coworkers.
Yeah, but I was sort of unavailable when I met him. I was engaged to someone else, and living with them, and so it was a very confusing time. But yeah, we just we just were friends for like a really long time, and then we kind of realized that there was something more. And that's when I first went to therapy, and I realized I needed to call off my engagement and start dating this guy that I like barely know, but I just like had a feeling about you. And it was pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, it was a thing, you know, going back to like the dating apps, and why I feel like a lot of those relationships weren't successful for me. It was like, you know, you're on these apps for the same reason. You're meeting up for basically a blind date, and there's no real chemistry established, you know, and it's kind of clinical. You're both kind of feeling each other out. You have your guard way up. It's not an organic process at all. I mean, I'm not new in saying this, I know. Yeah. And I just hadn't met anybody in real life before, or in a long time, I guess, that I was into. And just, you know, having the opportunity to meet somebody in real life and get to know them.
Forced to spend time together.
Mandatory fun. Just gradually getting to know someone over a period of months, and just realizing how much we had in common, and, you know, that attraction that was there. And that's something that you don't find when you're trying to find it, I guess. Yeah. You know, again, that cliche of like, you know, it finds you when you're not looking for it, or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Danielle and I've said that a lot about us, at least. I mean, I think one of our first conversations at a bar the first night we met, because we were at some party for somebody going away from Roosevelt, was like, I overheard some portion of her talking to others about dating apps, and then we all sort of were sharing like our stories about dating apps. But like, I also intentionally started using that as like a in to be like, okay, well, what did on your profile, and what do you do this, and like, you know, was investigating information in a more organic way.
Organic.
But it was starting from a place of us both sort of expressing frustration along with other people who were there about dating apps in general.
Yeah, I had 1,000%, not even the dating apps, just like sworn off men, because I had a bad experience with another former coworker, which I'll tell you off mic, Emily.
Other complicated things with coworkers and things of that nature.
Yeah. And so I truly was not looking. I was like, I don't care. This is just not the time for me. And then in walks little Nick.
Little Nick. I don't know if I've ever been called that in a very long time. I was going to say, I remember, speaking of the dating apps thing though, like somebody else who was there was sharing their horror story, because like you having your horror story, Lauren, that is of this same level. Like, oh, I realize I've already been on a date with this person and they don't even recognize me. Like that is, like you said, the plot of a sitcom. And this other person had talked about how they like made plans to meet someone, but they said like they wanted a public place, so they were going to meet them
in the Jewel parking
the Jewel parking lot. And then the parking lot, and they were like, I don't know if they were texting or messaging through the app, but they're like messaging, and it's like, okay, so which car is yours? Oh, come find me types of things. And then like seeing someone sitting in a car that was the type of car that they had described, so he starts walking towards it, and then that car like leaves and then goes to a different part of the parking lot and says like, come find me over here. And it's just like weird mind game stuff that this guy spent like an hour messaging with this person trying to see, and never actually got to meet them in person. I was just like, you're just like, I would have like 10 minutes.
He was literally chasing her around the parking lot.
That's psychotic. I think if someone asked me to meet them in a Jewel parking lot for a date, are we? Is this the date? Is this it? Are we just hanging out here?
Jewel for some bananas?
Maybe you stop at the Olive Bar. I don't know.
Fancy.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Well, I do want to say when I met Emily, she was with name redacted, and and then I remember like pretty early on when I knew you got engaged, and I remember being like, oh my god, I'm so happy. We can cut this if you don't want me to say this. I'm so happy for you, and you're like, and I just remember like Emily is, I don't know if she's happy about this.
I do remember that vaguely. What I was going to say is I remember the fast turnaround from she's engaged to someone who I'd like. Emily, you and I had never been like, terribly close. We didn't work that often together. We occasionally saw each other at these parties, you know what I mean? So you were a peripheral friend. And so your fiance at the time was, way out there. Like I didn't really know that person. I think we had a conversation at a party once maybe, but I was surprised at the fast turnaround when it was like Lauren started showing up to parties all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Wasn't that fast, was it?
A great deal. And I don't think I've ever heard the aspect, Emily, that I think is beautiful of you describing how you first went to therapy, and that was part of what helped you realize like maybe that there was, I'm sure, other aspects of your life where you're like, this is not the person I want to be, and this is not the things that I really want to do. I know a lot of people in my life who I think like especially you said you were straight out of college, like this is the next thing I'm supposed to do. This is the guy I'm currently dating. I'm supposed to be getting engaged at this point. So I'm going to do that. And I've seen a lot of those people do that, get married, and then maybe be divorced very soon afterwards, or worse, live miserably for years to come. You know what I mean? So I think that's awesome. And that's such a powerful story that you were like, no, I had this moment of clarity and I found a little bit more about myself and was like, I'm going to make some changes in my life.
That's what I was going to say. I commend you for being a badass bitch and just being like, nah, bruh, I ain't about this. Like, that's huge. A lot of people are just too scared to even do that. So, and look, it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Because little Lorne, little Nick
and Lorne.
I don't know how I feel about that. Nick, how many like you tell Nick? I don't know if I'm.
They're the Lils.
And Lorne,
L-I-L, not little. L-I-L. Lil.
Yeah. No, it's like it's hard. I think when you're at that age, when you're in your late 20s, it's a pressure cooker, So many people are following this like timeline and this path. And I don't know. I think for me, I just realized I'm like, it's more about how I feel when I'm with the person, versus like them checking all these like supposed boxes of like how I was thinking about the boxes. I was thinking about this person, went to the same school as me. Like we had like, family from the same areas. Like it just kind of like logically made sense versus like, how do you feel when you're with the person? And I don't know, when I met Lauren, it kind of reminded me of that. And I was going to say, we originally had another movie we were going to potentially broach, but we were like, there's no way in hell we can rewatch this movie because
all right, so like,
I've got to know now.
So this is truly like the form, like
one of our first conversations where we realized like, okay, we really like each other.
Yeah, like this is truly like formative for our relationship. Have you heard of the movie Martyrs?
Martyrs? No,
okay.
I don't think so.
So Martyrs, it's like French, like
new wave
French
horror.
Extreme horror, like torture porn.
Okay. Okay. This is probably why it's not crossed my desk.
Yeah. It's like an absolutely brutal movie that I had never seen. I heard about, and it was like I don't really ever think I want to watch that. It just sounds too upsetting. And I like horror, but I don't like torture porn and like super graphic stuff. And then We talked about movies a few times at work.
So I somehow pop by my office and just like
Yeah.
make up excuses to talk to me.
I would. And do you remember how Martyrs came up?
I was just, I feel like you were like freaked out because you're like, who is this little blonde girl who's like suggesting this like really like, just insane, like the most gruesome horror movie.
And I think I didn't realize how weird it was until she let me borrow her DVD of it. She's like, I have the DVD. Do you want it? I'm like, I guess.
Wait, have you watched it many times, Emily?
No.
No.
Well, I've watched it like 3 times.
More than once.
I watched it. I remember I watched it alone on a Friday night at my place. It was
my God.
And it was just like a brutal, horrible,
Don't recommend.
awful movie that like denies the existence of God, and it's really upsetting. And I was like, damn, this girl's twisted. I did not see that coming. I had no idea. And then it just made me,
this is formative for the relationship.
it really was. And
Established a layer of intrigue that
I'm like, there's depths to this girl that I did not know were there just from having these kind of like casual conversations at work with this like undertone of attraction that we weren't really speaking about at work. And she lends me this movie and I'm like, whoa, there's a lot more going on there. This is interesting. So yeah, I mean, if I know that that wouldn't really be great for the podcast.
No.
I don't think I would not force that movie upon you,
no.
nor would I force it upon myself ever again.
I was gonna say I'm fascinated. I don't love that kind of thing, but I would have watched it. Danielle, I'm sure would look at the listeners can't see the face she's making.
No.
Like everyone who listens to this show would know that Danielle is not a fan of horror writ large in general.
Or porn, because I was raised Catholic.
I think you're missing what torture porn means. But that's okay. That's okay.
Moms make a right. Put them together. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Oh my God.
So, but we forgot to get this because we got so into your story, which is a really good story, and I want to come back to some other aspects of it. But what movie are we watching in?
Yeah, totally different than Martyrs. I would maybe think like the diametric opposite.
An equally upsetting and disturbing film.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this conversation now. Continue.
Clueless.
Yay!
That's right. 1995's Clueless, starring Alicia Silverstone.
Alicia.
Yeah, it is a hard swerve from French new wave torture porn. That is yep.
And I think part of what makes me love this girl is that she loves both of them. I don't know equally, but like
truly, I will. Listeners, not to Emily, please forgive me, not to put anything on, but if you were to see Emily as I had previously, being told that she likes the movie Clueless would not surprise you in the least. Sort of like at a passing glance, seems like the kind of person based on absolutely nothing of depth, just a cursory glance. Yeah, Clueless makes sense.
I have dressed up as Cher for Halloween before, so
fantastic.
Yes.
But she is not maybe your stereotypical person. She's she's blonde. She's not having black hair. She doesn't have the black fingernails. She's not goth or anything. And again, I am putting all sorts of big things out there that
you
are
didn't meet me during my goth phase.
Right. I did not. But yeah, so you wouldn't know that Emily had a goth phase and has that layer. So I love that story, Lauren, though, of like that was your first indication of like, oh, there's something deeper here for her as a human being.
Yeah, I think so. It like definitely got me hooked. I'll put it that way. Had to know what was going on. Had to find out what was making her tick.
So then that was 2019 that you all met. Mm-hmm. How long before Martyrs occurred after you first met?
We met probably in the spring of 2019. I think Martyrs was October, November, something like that. I think we were talking horror movies a lot, probably around Halloween. So that's probably when it happened.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's around the time that decisions were made regarding the other relationship and my living situation, which is interesting. It's like when you're living with someone and you are in a relationship, it's like when you end that relationship, you lose your home. Like it's like a very intense thing. So now that we're moving in together, it's kind of like, also intense, but in a different way. So
yes, that's the other thing. We're moving in together in a little bit. So it's very exciting.
That's a huge step. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's just, I feel like from where we started to where we are now, like I think both of us are just continually like amazed at
How far
we've come, because it was a tough road to get here, and I think we're in a really, really great place now, and we're really excited for the next step.
But one of the things when we live together, it's like we got to think about what are these movies that.
Because let me tell you, how
do you guys do it? Because you guys definitely have different taste in movies.
Oh, like sure.
We like switch off, and there's like genres of movies that I'm like, no, I just won't.
Like action.
There's whole groups. No, action isn't one that she would say no to. Like something like Martyrs, I think she would just flat out put her foot down.
I will say, for the first time ever for Nick's birthday last year, and I'm assuming he's going to continue this.
Ooh,
he was like, I just want to sit down, eat candy, and watch movies all day. Awesome. And so we watched a lot of movies that made me feel very sick to my stomach. But I was like, it's his birthday, and I love him a lot. This is my gift to you.
You also, though, and I'm not remembering all of them, but I'm remembering you stating, okay, I actually like some that you enjoyed more than you expected, that you would have never watched without me. And that's not the only time that's occurred. But B, some that you were like, I don't enjoy this, but I still, I'm sorry, I'm just like realizing I'm bleeding from somewhere, and I'm trying to figure out what.
Oh my God, beginning.
Oh God.
Is this how a torture porn works?
No, you're being
like
martyrs.
That scene in Martyrs.
Why are you bleeding?
I think I scratched open a scab or something on my leg. We'll just edit that out or not. What I was going to say is, like, I remember the movie Freaky. Have you guys seen that with Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, where Vince Vaughn, they swap places.
It's a fun movie.
For listeners, if you haven't seen it, it's called Freaky because it's clearly meant to be kind of a flip on Freaky Friday. It's a body swap movie, except young teenage girl gets body swapped with essentially Mike Myers. This is Michael Myers, not Mike Myers. Michael Myers, the serial killer, played by Vince Vaughn. And that's very cool. And you admitted that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, but not the other movies that we watched.
I don't remember the other
Promising
movies.
Young Woman, that's rough.
Ooh, see, then that is a great example. You told me that you could appreciate that as a film, although you never wanted to watch it again.
Wait, which one?
Promising Young Woman.
Oh, Promising Young Woman.
I liked that movie.
That.
Yeah.
You like that more
really
than
good.
I love Bo Burnham, though.
Me too.
Is my first love.
Well, no, Dani, I want to go back to something, because you said you watched these movies all day with Nick, eating candy, and you said you felt sick. Now,
I love this.
I gotta say, there's another thing that could have got you sick aside from those movies. It might have been all the Snickers bars. I don't know.
I think Lorne is onto something.
Nope.
Dani, how do you get him to watch Disney Channel original movies with you?
I think we have a very good balance of like,
yeah,
we switch off. So like every Sunday. Sorry,
Sunday is movie day.
Is movie night. Like it's on our calendar. We're really not allowed to go outside of that unless something big comes up, like a wedding or something.
Yeah, and movie lovers, you can follow what we watch every Sunday, by the way, if you follow us on Instagram or Twitter, and then we often use the hashtag movie night every Sunday.
But yeah, Nick made it very clear that he's like, movies are important to me, and we have a very good balance. So this most recent one, we watched the movie Luck, which is just about a lucky cat. It's like an animated movie about a lucky cat. But then before that, we watched like Knives Out. So it's kind of like you pick one, I pick one. And if there's something that is Nick knows I completely will not like, he can watch it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are certain things like, I mean, this is going to date the episode and we'll see. But like, watch the first episode of the new Game of Thrones show recently. Danielle literally got up and left the room. And like, I admittedly was like, this isn't grabbing me enough. I'll probably wait to see when more episodes come out and see how other people are reacting as opposed to continuing to watch this show at this time. But Danielle like felt physically uncomfortable and then therefore just got up to leave for some of the stuff that has happened in the show. And there's things like that it's just like, I'm not going to expose her to that if I don't really mean to.
But I will say, Lauren, this is probably directed at you because maybe you're not watching enough Disney Channel original movies. I think Nick likes watching it with me, not because the movies are quality, which they are, but that's a different thing. But
some more than others. Like the joy
that I get out of watching these movies.
I do like, well, we've watched a couple. I had a joke with her where she would say like, let's watch a Disney Channel original movie. And I would say, I don't understand what that means. What do you mean? I don't understand what that concept is. It doesn't ring any bells.
This is how I get Clueless, because like we have totally different reference points because we are also like, born in different decades.
Right. Well, I was gonna say like I kind of like what you guys were saying, where Dani, you like were not into the Game of Thrones thing. You felt like uncomfortable, and Nick, that probably wasn't like you weren't trying to make her do that. But I will say with you, Emily, I do sometimes pick movies that I know are gonna maybe push some buttons, not intentionally, but it's like movies that I really like that I want to just see like. Are you going to be into this, or like, are you going to like?
And I just want comfort food, and you just need to let me have more of it.
I made her watch All That Jazz a few weeks ago, which I don't know if that's a movie you've seen or familiar with, but it's great.
I'm familiar, I've not seen it, and that wouldn't be anywhere near your milieu.
Is it a musical?
Sorta. But it's crazy meta. Like
Clueless.
I know we're talking about Clueless. Sorry, I'm going off topic.
We're not actually talking about like movies. About relationships. Go on and on, Lorne. Yes.
Nobody's talking about other movies.
We could do that.
No.
So, especially, I love having you all on as guests, because what I get from you is that even with that story about martyrs, you all have used movies to communicate some of your truths and learn things about each other and shared like, this movie is important to me for this reason. And that is truly the kernel of the seed of this podcast, is me trying to make Danielle watch more of these movies.
And that is
also,
like,
I feel your pain.
If Lorne were to start a podcast, it would be the exact same thing.
But the flip side, Lorne, and this is where I think I was trying to get to, and then I really appreciate those, like that you asked Emily, how do you get him to do it? You have to accept, or at least I have felt I had to accept, I want her to share with me her stories about all these other movies too. Now, not all of them are Disney Channel original movies. It was very difficult for us to find model behavior in a legal fashion when we had to watch that. But others like Clueless or something like that is easier to find and is easier to stomach. No, but it's a window into Danielle's life, a window into Danielle's thought process and who she is as a person.
One movie you hated watching so much was Master of Disguise.
I did. I truly did.
Do you remember that movie?
Is that
Dana Carvey? Yeah.
I don't think I know that one.
Oh, you don't have to watch it.
Speaking of movies that you are physically uncomfortable watching, it is a kids movie. It is just everything bad. Like there's no coherent story from scene to scene. The act, I mean, it's just an excuse for Dana Carvey to do a bunch of weird impressions. Which
I know Pistachio Disguisey. I know he says Pistachio Disguisey in it, and that has rung in my brain ever since seeing the trailer. I don't think I've ever seen the movie, but I will forever know Pistachio. Oh yeah, Turtle. Yeah.
If you grew up in the Midwest, or at least in Northwest Ohio, there was a guy who had like a radio store, some car radio store, and he would always go turtle. and like I assume it came from that movie because it came after that movie. I talked about this to you before. Anyway, we're getting really off on the topic.
That's all good.
I have nothing to contribute to this.
I would recommend, though, for both of you, it has pushed me out of my comfort zone as well to have like a movie night.
Yeah, I really like that.
And we can even coordinate movies sometimes so we can all discuss about it.
Yeah.
We've tried doing like, we switch off who picks a movie, and then like whoever is picking, the other person gives them 3 options. So we both get to like contribute, like, hey, here are 3 things that I'm feeling, which is the best option for you. So like we both get to like kind of contribute on it.
I like that a lot. I don't know that we
got to be strategic.
Something similar.
You know? I have to plug my laptop in 1 second. Think thought.
Not a problem.
You think we should move to? Is this? Do we do in this part? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Well, is there anything else that you guys wanted to share about your relationship, your connection? We're gonna hear about your connection to the movie in the next part of this, but just any like general love tips.
Love tips. No, we could do some.
If you were to give your own love advice, we are not experts here. We're not here, not guests. Like we've never had experts. We're all just people in relationships who love. But if you were to give your advice to someone, what would be sort of the thing that you think is the secret sauce to making a relationship work?
Wow. That is a great question. What do you think?
So, well, couples therapy, I feel like it's going to be really good, but
we applaud this.
Yes. But yeah, I think like checking in with each other and having like those like scheduled things is helpful. And I think especially as we live together, I definitely want to have like a Sunday meeting of some sort, you know, like a check-in, like, you know.
Is that what we're calling it? Sunday meeting?
Sunday meeting. I don't know. My therapist recommended that too.
Okay.
Of like, yeah. And then like date nights, of course.
Yeah. I think, mixing things up, I guess, you know.
Trying new things together.
Trying new stuff, different restaurants, different surprises are always great. I need to be better at that, but...
Yeah, plan me a date.
Yeah, I have to plan a date.
Not subtle.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think being able to openly and honestly talk to your partner and share what you're thinking and not hold back. I mean, this is like basic stuff, but I really think it's true. And, you know, you can't do it with everybody. You have to like gel with the person and really, you know, feel them. And I think that's a good way to tell, like, if the relationship is going to work or not. Like, I feel so comfortable, like, sharing everything with her, which I've never really felt in the past. Like, you know, I just love hanging out with her. And that's not a thing you know, it's a thing you can work at, of course. But, you know, that's a good way to tell, I think, if your relationship's doing good, is like, do I like spending time with this person? And gosh golly, I sure do. Spend time with this person.
We had like a realization. We took a trip to Croatia this summer, and like it was a lot of fun, and we did like a bunch of like crazy fun like activities. But we had like the most fun on the way back home, like just talking to each other on the plane and like being goofy with each other, and like we both were like deathly ill too, but like so we're like physically miserable, but like actually having so much fun and like just like being really uncomfortable on the plane, but we were just like in good spirits.
That was your favorite part?
That was fun.
Was being sick on the plane on the way back from Europe?
Yeah. Yeah. But that was like kind of a wake up call too. It was like when we got back from Croatia, that's when we realized like, okay, we're going back to our separate apartments.
You did have fun. She did have fun on the plane.
No, I had something to say.
Oh, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's when I realized we wanted to live together, because we were both like feeling weird about like, oh, I'm going, like we took an Uber back from the airport. We're like, I'm going back to my apartment and you're going back to your apartment. And we just spent like 12 awesome days together, and like this feels weird. And so we were like, we need to live together.
Yeah. It's true.
I don't need to get into this, but one thing I do think is interesting is you all met within a year and certainly started dating within months of COVID. Yet we have known a lot of other people that sort of like jumped to the let's live together level because of COVID. So I think that's very cool that you all like kept dating each other during that time without that.
Yeah, I think we really consciously tried to resist that temptation. We did talk about it earlier. And I'm glad that we did not jump into that, because we didn't, I know, COVID, I think, accelerated our relationship quite a bit, because we were in our germ circle. It was basically the two of us for a long time. And and we did talk about living together way earlier, but I think that would have just been a mistake. So I'm glad that we proceeded the way we did, I think we've paced it well. Like, I don't think we're rushing things. I think it's good.
Yeah. Life is long, and I feel like there's no rush to because once you move in together, then
you can't go backwards from that.
So we're just enjoying every stage as it came along.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we move on, Danielle?
Yeah. I just want to say you guys are very cute.
Yeah.
Oh.
You guys have that thing where you like keep looking at each other. Listeners can't see this because you don't watch us on YouTube. You just like look, cutely into each other's eyes and things of that nature. Everybody knows what that looks like. They've seen that in movies or seen that of other couples, and you do have that.
Is there a Patreon video tier? Because they can get in on this action.
No, these videos are actually not behind the Patreon wall. They are just available on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
there are videos that are behind the Patreon wall that are all sorts of other kinds of deeper reviews and things of that nature. But
yeah, give us money.
Gail created a nice, smooth Patreon transition.
I appreciated that. I was going to applaud you
had that
for
one
it.
ready. Okay, so Nick, can you tell us about our next segment that I always forget
Yeah,
about?
this next segment we have is called Closer Through Science. So, movie lovers, you can follow us for some of these answers in the future using the hashtag Closer Through Science. You can also share your stories with this. This question that we're choosing might be a little difficult for the sharing from a listener's perspective, but these questions come from a study by Aaron et al. And they basically put strangers in a room together, told them to ask each other progressively detailed and intimate questions. There are 36 of them, so we are coming very, very close. I think we might have 2 more questions about each other, and then those people became much closer to each other, and they expressed that they were closer
Through science.
Okay.
Okay.
This is why I don't normally do
It's
that.
a long explanation. We're gonna ask you guys this question, and I think you each answer it, right?
If it depends on how we want to do it. Do we want to do it as if they are collectively our partner and then they are asking us, or should we
Have them ask each other?
Oh, I love that.
Okay, you're gonna ask this to each other, I guess. So you're gonna share a personal problem and ask your partner's advice on how you might handle it.
Wait, say that one more time.
So you're gonna share a personal problem that you're having with Emily, and then she's gonna give you advice on how to handle it, and then vice versa.
And to be clear, you're sharing the problem with Emily, not necessarily sharing a problem that you have with Emily.
Right. I'm not like, man, my girlfriend's been on my case lately. Keep telling me to take out the trash. What, do you have a problem that you need help solving?
Yo, I'll solve it. Check out the
You have a meddling coworker?
No.
You roughed up?
No.
I'll do it.
I guess honestly the biggest problem is just like going through, like motivating myself to go through my closet and get rid of stuff.
There you go.
Move. And that's like a minor problem. It's not even like a very big problem.
That's perfect. It doesn't have to be big.
Okay.
Lauren, what's your advice on how to solve it?
Well, I think you should take half of everything in your closet.
Oh shit.
Because we are combining our stuff. We're not gonna have room for it. And give it away.
No.
Sell it. No. I think you should look at each piece of clothing and does this generate any feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Do I care about this at all? Does this bring back a memory? Can I see myself in it? And if maybe you keep it. If you're not feeling anything, maybe that's a sign that you can get rid of it or you can give it away.
That's good.
That was stolen from
I dig that.
Marie Kondo.
I was gonna say it's Marie Kondo. I love it.
No, I came up with that myself.
Oh, okay.
It's my own personal thing.
What's your
That's
problem?
really smart, Lauren. Maybe you could get people to like follow you for that. You should write a book about it.
I should write a book about that. I'm gonna call it. What does she call her book?
The art of.
I don't know.
The art of tidying up.
I'm gonna call it the science sweeping things away.
All right, Lauren, what personal problem do you have?
What personal problem do I have? Oh boy, I know, but I'm trying to think of a personal problem that I have. Ooh, okay.
Emily is giving
okay.
Hence, look right now.
I have been looking for a new job. How do I figure out? There's so many job opportunities out there. How do I narrow things down and really pursue things that I feel like at a company that I feel like I could excel in?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Good problem.
Yeah, it's a good problem, right?
Yeah. So, since I used to be a career advisor, I feel like I can jump in on this.
This is kind of in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think it would be probably good to get like a first person experience of what it's like to work for those companies. And like, you could start by making a list of companies you're interested in. And then you could take that list, go to, obviously you work at DePaul.
I do.
So there's a lot of students that you help. And you could look at the DePaul Alumni Network as well as your own individual alumni network and see like, okay, who are some people I'm connected with already that I could talk to see if they can get coffee or, set up calls with you and learn more about what it's like to work there, on a casual basis. And then you can kind of make those decisions for yourself of like, what aligns most with your goals and what company kind of has a culture that you want.
Baby, that's great advice.
We solved it.
Yay.
Wow, I like that question. That was a cute little question.
That was, and I like how you chose to do it. I think it worked much better than the way I would have done it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, Nick just wanted to solve your problem. Put on here for another.
Do that too.
I know, too much. All right. Well, that is Closer Through Science. Thank you, movie lovers, for sticking with us in this first half. We are going to go to an intermission real quick, and then we are going to return to talk about what movie again, everyone? Clueless.
In love with movies. Da-da-da.
And we're back. Welcome back, movie lovers.
He looked at me like,
in love with movies. I was trying to toss that ball over to anything, literally anything.
Hello, we're back.
All right, we're back. And we're going to be discussing the 1995 movie Clueless with our friends Lorne and Emily. And before we get started with their love stories or anything else, everybody who knows this show knows I like to give some opening credits first. So we're going to talk about some details. As I mentioned, it's 1995. Anybody who knows the movie Clueless probably knows that it's starring Alicia Silverstone. They may not know that Stacey Dash and Brittany Murphy are the other two main leads. I know Brittany Murphy from this movie primarily, but she had some other things before she passed this world in 2009. It also has Paul Rudd. We cannot forget.
Oh, what a babe.
Paul Rudd, who looks basically the same in 1995 as he does if you were to like look a photo up of.
No, he looks better now than he did then. It's crazy.
He has aged well. He's like
a fine wine.
Yes, like a fine wine. Donald Faison and Breckin Meyer. This is where I think I like fell in love with Breckin Meyer and have pretty much enjoyed every film that he's been in since. Let's see some other ones that people might not know. Dan Hedaya is the guy who plays her dad, who's like one of those character actors that he's totally one of those, oh, that guy. You know what I mean? You see him in something and you're like, oh, that guy. Danielle's like, I've never seen him in anything.
No.
I see way more movies than she does. Wallace Shawn. Anybody know who Wallace Shawn is or what he's from?
Yeah. He's My Dinner with Andre, The Cosby Show, unfortunately. A lot of stuff. Yeah, he's in Princess Bride.
That was the one I was always thinking of. That's my note. Inconceivable.
Yeah.
He's on Gossip Girl too.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. He's another character actor that he's that guy. But
yeah, he's great.
Very recognizable.
He's like more standdaught, I think, than some other.
Wasn't he in Sabrina
actors.
too?
Yeah.
Probably.
Or like, okay. It's like some
we get the important ones.
Truly important one. The director is Amy Heckerling, which I kind of knew that name, but when I was looking at her IMDb, I realized like she basically knocks it out of the park for like a lot of 80s and 90s movies. So just to highlight some of them, other than this movie, she wrote and directed Clueless, but she directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Johnny Dangerously, which is like a big one for me, Michael Keaton back in the day, Look Who's Talking, the two Look Who's Talking movies, and then Danielle, I know you'll identify with, she directed National Lampoon's Vacation.
I knew that because I'm like, I know that name.
There you go.
Because I watched that movie all
lot.
the time.
So yeah, I don't know if she did Christmas Vacation, but I saw like the first Vacation. She may have done both. I don't know.
I think she did European. Was it I think it was European Vacation, right?
That's probably correct. Yeah.
How do you boys know these things?
And her last movie, Loser, with Jason.
Is that her last one? I have that down here, but I thought no one else would know what that movie was.
Yeah, I saw that in a theater.
Really?
I paid to see that movie. That's awesome. To date myself. Yeah.
I saw it a lot when it was on like HBO or Cinemax, one of those things, but I watched it a ton of times.
Yeah.
Jason Biggs.
Biggs, other people.
Early Skarsgård. I can't remember which Skarsgård it is, but it's one of the Skarsgårds is in it.
Oh, there's a Skarsgård. Is it not Mena Suvari? Is it Mena Suvari?
Yes. Yep. Mena Suvari. Yep.
Yeah. And then she never directed another movie. I don't know why.
Well, maybe because
Loser sucked. I don't know.
She felt like
I enjoyed it a great deal, but it was definitely not as quality of something like Clueless.
Yeah, I don't think it did quite as well.
Well, we were saying with Clueless, we're like, we couldn't believe how well written the movie is. It is just like every line hits.
Every line's a banger. It's super tight. Yeah, did she write it too, Amy Heckerling?
Yes.
She wrote, wow. It's incredible. Like
truly,
like every line is just like a diamond. Like it just cuts. It's great.
What are some of your guys' favorite lines from the movie?
When her dad is like, "What's that?
I'm not
A
gonna think of this.
dress." That's who? Calvin Klein. It just tickles me. Very funny.
I was writing this down actually when I was watching it earlier today because I watched it again. Movie lovers, we'll get into this probably in our love stories, but it was very funny to us when Lauren and Emily shared with us that they wanted to watch this movie for their episode. We had literally watched this like 5 days earlier.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why Danielle decided not to rewatch it, but I absolutely knew I had to. But I was writing some of these down. Fully intend to break for animals. She goes, "When were you born?" And she says April, and she goes, well, or no, she says May, and then she goes, "Well, I was born in April, so as your elder."
Yes, I love that line.
Like, oh man, couldn't be happier than arguing for grades, just all
This
sorts
one
of
that you
things.
have written down.
Which
Well,
one? Which
a
one?
watch doesn't really go with this outfit. Because her dad asks her, "Do you know what time it is?" A watch doesn't really go with this outfit.
The piece mentally challenged, referring to virginity.
I'm mentally challenged.
Oh
Like-
my god, that is so good.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of good ones.
One.
Very
Well,
good.
before we go into, we want to hear the rest of your all's love stories with this movie. Sorry, but before we do that, we need to go to everyone's favorite segment,
Everyone loves it.
and Danielle's least favorite. Let's be honest, she loves it. She doesn't like being the center of attention. So it's all Danny.
Hit the button.
Everybody's favorite segment. It's time for Danny's Dingle.
Time for Danny's Dingle.
Getting so much side eye.
High school. Privilege. Outfits? Question mark. Lots of bad behavior. Gay? Calvin Klein? Incest-ish. The end. Okay, I was thinking about this earlier. This movie actually, when I was like, what is it about? It's literally about nothing. Oh, I forgot driving. There's a lot of driving in there. It's not really about a lot. Just like she wants to have a boyfriend. She wants her friend to have a boyfriend. But it's just really about their lives and her as like a privileged white girl.
Is Lauren, you might know this, or Emily, you might too. Is this one of those movies that's like, isn't it Emma? Or,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was gonna say I saw Clueless first, of course, as any girl growing up in like the late 90s, early 2000s would.
Indeed.
But I remember like being in my AP English class and reading Emma by Jane Austen, and I was like, this sounds like Clueless. Like I was like making the connection. I was like,
Oh,
what is like
Light
what are
bulbs
the
going off
chances?
over
Like, is this a coincidence? But no, it's actually like it's like legitimately like a direct
It's true.
interpretation.
Jane Austen ripped off Clueless.
Yeah.
Just direct rip. I don't know how she was never caught.
it's like She's the Man is like
Yes.
Yeah. 12th Night.
and 10 Things I Hate About You is
Taming of the
Taming
Shrew.
Okay. Oh,
That's the one.
I
I'm
know
trying to
that
think
about
of
this
what that was based off of. Yep.
Yeah. So those other ones are Shakespeare, and this is Jane Austen, but also
Wow.
a contemporary. It's good.
I didn't know that. So, you guys, what is your love story with this movie, Clueless?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's true. We actually did not watch this together until 2-3 days ago. Whenever we watched it for the first time, we like talked about it before, and we knew we both loved it, but we've never actually watched it together.
Love this.
Together.
So,
So,
what was your first time watching it, Lauren? Do you remember?
yeah, I mean, it was probably on HBO when I was like in '96, when I was 16, to date myself. Yes. I remember like I've always been kind of like into movies, and I would always like read movie reviews. And I remember like reading in probably the Chicago Tribune, like Gene Siskel's review and summer of '95, like being surprised at like the great review that it got. And because it just, from the commercials just looked like this kind of vapid teenage comedy.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a bad thing to me at the time, but I just didn't think it would get like the critical respect it got. So like definitely brought that movie to my attention. I don't think I like saw it in the theater. I know I saw it a ton when it was on cable, and I loved it. Like it was just one of those movies that was just on all the time, and I would watch it every time it was on. And just at a certain point, I had kind of internalized it and memorized a lot of the lines.
It is, as we've already addressed, very quotable.
Very
Yes,
quotable.
it's one of the most quotable movies of the '90s for sure.
Let's mix it up. Danny, what's your first time watching this movie?
When we turned this on a couple weeks ago for movie night, I think I said this to you. I don't think I had ever seen it all the way through because it was a movie that was always on TV. I was like, oh, I saw this part. I know all the scenes. I know all the lines, but I had never sat down and been like, huh, that's the story, huh? So I guess the first time I've actually watched it is a couple weeks ago, which is very embarrassing to say.
Wow.
That is surprising. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Emily, how about you?
Yeah, definitely a Blockbuster rental. Like at some point, I think probably like a sleepover, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's so funny. We were talking about is Cher like we were trying to decide is Cher smart, because when I was growing up, I wanted to be exact like Cher. I think I wrote in like one of my like essays for school or something like role model Cher. Like I really idolized her, Alicia Silverstone, and like I dressed up as her for Halloween. So I don't know.
I mean, that's an awesome outfit. I mean, just by itself, like that's you could pick any outfit from this movie.
The yellow one.
The
yellow one.
Yeah.
The
yellow one.
I had the feathery pens, and one of my friends was Dion. It was a good time.
I forgot about the feathery pens. Oh my goodness. I totally
Which
forgot that was a thing.
actually make a comeback in Legally Blonde when she's sitting there with, and I'm like, is that a reference to Clueless?
And we have talked about it before on this podcast that like I feel like those movies came out somewhat around the same time, within 5 or less than 10 years to each other. And me, at least, I used to be able to confuse Reese Witherspoon and Alicia Silverstone. They were like the same person, essentially, to me.
Okay.
And it's just very interesting to me how those careers have very much ended up different later on.
Yeah.
Did. I think Reese picked up the Alicia Silverstone mantle. I feel.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I feel like Alicia Silverstone's career didn't extend too far past Clueless, maybe by like 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then I'm sure she's done stuff, but I feel like Reese's career kind of blew up after that.
Well, I think what we've talked about before on this podcast, and therefore I won't belabor the point. Listeners, I know there's some of you are close enough advocate.
His brain is moving too fast.
It is. I'm sorry. You listen to things closely enough, you'll be able to tell us what episode this was in, I'm sure. But it might have been a Legally Blonde episode now that I'm thinking about it. But like Reese is, I think, a better actress. And also has done other things, like because Reese has gone on to like direct and produce and things, whereas Alicia has not done as much of that.
I think I agree with you.
Okay.
I think she is capable of doing a lot more. Like she has a lot more range than Alicia Silverstone.
Yes.
But like this is a thought that I had watching Clueless.
Okay.
Like Alicia Silverstone is fucking amazing in this movie.
She is. She's perfect.
Like I honestly think she should have gotten some kind of Oscar nomination, or like honestly I think it's that good. It's like so like pitch perfect comedically, like emotionally. Like I just feel like she's so I feel like this movie maybe almost hurt her because people probably thought that she just was that character.
Sure. I could see that. And I would agree with you that she does this role amazingly. And and including the layers to it. Because as we're kind of already been talking about, like, is Cher dumb or is Cher smart? Like, and I think that there's a lot of evidence to the latter. I
think she's very smart. But before, did you say your love story?
I did not.
Oh, go say it.
Okay. You're mad at me. I'm sorry. An honest conversation. My memory of this, we didn't have a Blockbuster growing up in my small town, but there was a place called Video Spectrum, which was the same thing. And
did you have Rose Video in your
basically? I remember my friends Carmen and Laura. I think Carmen might listen to this occasionally, so hi Carmen if you're listening. But Carmen and Laura, they brought over Clueless, and they were part of that Sunday crew that after church and everything like that would come over to my parents' house. And they brought this movie, and it was like, the two girls are going to make us guys sit down and watch a movie, because this was 96 probably. I remember loving it from the first time that I watched it, and we watched it probably 3 times that afternoon. And I think it was also like one of them had to explain to me what was going on with the character Christian. And
we were talking about that too, because I think when I first watched it, I had no idea. Like we both had no idea.
Yeah.
I feel like there was him I did not know until like 10 seconds before she knew. And then also with what's the guy, the jerk?
Elton.
Elton, where I felt like I didn't know that he was into her until like 10 seconds before she knew that he was into her. Like I felt like I was very much on the same page as her throughout a lot of that stuff when I first watched it. I was Cher.
I totally agree. I totally agree in terms of like and this is what we were talking about, the writing as well as the acting, I think is done so well that if you're watching it the first time, you don't pick up on it.
Yeah.
But then I had a note from watching it earlier today that actually there's some brilliant ways where it's hinted at. So for example, if you do watch it a second time, you're like, oh my God, how did I not see this coming? Like you don't see it at all the first time, but then the second you're like, yes, how is it not?
Same thing with Christian.
And
when he first walks in and he flips his coat around his shoulder.
So Elton, there's a scene early on where like he's kind of like hanging all over her, but they did that intercut with the montage of the two teachers falling in love. And so while you're watching these two teachers falling in love, it keeps cutting back to Elton like hanging all over Cher, and clearly like the same thing is going on in his head too.
I
just thought that was brilliant. I was like, as like again thinking of it as like film, as you were kind of saying, Lorne, of like, oh my God, like this right here, this editing is brilliant.
It really is. Yeah, it's great. Like, yeah, you're right. They tease it in a way that if you're not looking for it the first time, it just totally passes over you, especially the Elton stuff for me anyway. The
Christian thing, though, to clarify, I don't mean that they had to explain to me like before it's revealed that he's gay. I mean, like once it was said like he's gay, I was like, what does that mean? That he likes Spartacus? You know what I mean? Like I didn't understand why that was a problem for their relationship.
Why can't they make it work, those two crazy people?
Because I would have been young enough that I was like, what is this? What's that mean? Anyway,
I will also say that like, is Cher smart or not? I do think she's smart, but I also think that she's like one of the kindest, like really does care about people, but she comes off so stupid and selfish. But like even in that scene we were watching where they order food for her dad and she's like, no, Dad, you can't have that. Like she's taking care of her father like secretly almost the entire time. And like I don't think he recognizes it, but she's always just like kind of getting him together. And then there's I think just one scene where she just like looks at the picture of her mom. And it's not really super heartbreaking, but when you think about it, you're like, dang, she's the woman of the house. She's like trying to take care of all this. And she's just this young girl who wants to have a boyfriend.
She's got a high EQ.
Yeah, she definitely has a high EQ.
Yes.
But
model. Yeah.
I think she's got high IQ too. And that's, you all have maybe read, I have not. So I'm not sure how much of it is similar to this as well. But Danielle, I think your first word was privilege. And I think that so perfectly encapsulates it, because I think she is someone who is almost a victim of her privilege in terms of people taking her seriously, at least, because she is intelligent. Her vocabulary is off the charts. She's very much caring for other people. But because she was just brought up in this position where it's like, I don't understand that not everyone has a masseuse and a gardener and a maid and, has a computer program that picks their outfits for them. Like, that's where she then comes across as not being connected. But it's like, it's not her fault she was born into a world where she doesn't have to be connected with true difficulty and strife. Like, she's still an intelligent person.
Totally. And I feel like the movie does a really interesting job, like demonstrating like how actual high school cliques kind of are. Like, I feel like it gets exaggerated so much of like, these are the popular kids and these are like, and they're mean. And like, this is kind of how like, the stereotypes go. But I actually think Clueless is pretty true to like how high school really is, where it's like, yes, there are like the rich kids and there's like a lot of classism embedded into like the social circles. Like you see like kind of like the stoner guy and like how like Cher tries to steer him, like Ty away from like the stoner guy. And like that whole group doesn't seem like, in the same kind of social and economic kind of stratosphere as Cher's group. And like, that's actually how cliques are in high school. I feel like it's like, like the rich kids whose parents are kind of absent, like they stay together because they have all the parties. And then like the rest of the kids kind of group according to different interests. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also made a note that I thought that sort of the flirtation, I guess is the word I'll use, between Breckin Meyer's character and Brittany Murphy's character, like that whole her kind of having a thing for him and him kind of having a thing for her, but they're like fumbling over that idea. That to me, as I kept watching it, I was like, this is so very much representing what it felt like to be like I like them back in middle school and high school type of thing.
But things that would not be similar, at least in my high school, The outfits when they're in gym class. They're all like wearing slutty outfits. That's very funny to me. Just their clothes in general in this movie.
Yes.
Unbelievable. And I don't know about, I mean, maybe I was just really lame, but we didn't have parties like that.
We might have. I wasn't invited to them.
That's my assumption always too.
Oh, I know. Could
in
happen.
this movie though, right? Like she's a sophomore? Is she freshman or sophomore?
Yeah, well, she doesn't have a driver's license yet, so she's
We
gotta be
were
like,
talking about her age too.
We were trying to figure out her age and Paul Rudd's age.
Yeah, that was like, obviously the elephant in the room. It's like the kind of stepbrother situation, but we were also like, oh man, because she says, I don't have my driver's license yet. It's like a learner's permit. And it's like, okay, so you're 15 and he's in college and like, like we hope he's like maybe not 18 yet, but it's probably like a situation.
My theory is it's a Doogie Howser situation, and he just graduated graduated high school after a year. He's actually like 16 going on 17. I feel he's just in college.
He's too old for her, but because it's Paul Rudd, it doesn't matter. It's Paul Rudd. He's charming.
He's timeless.
He can do whatever he wants.
It is Paul Rudd. He can do whatever.
I would fall for Paul Rudd. I do every day.
Paul.
I do
Fall
think
for
it was
Paul.
for me. I think it's probably that whole at that age, it's a questionable, like, because to me, it's not even the number of years; it's the sort of like stages you're at in life kind of thing. Because there's the same distance of age between Danielle and I in terms of number of years. And it would have been weird if I had started dating her when I was a freshman in college and she was a freshman in high school.
Yeah. That stuff starts to smooth out as you get older.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
But back
we
then,
can relate.
Yeah.
I didn't want to out you, but I think you guys said you had some years between you as well. So
it's a bit wider than Rudd and this movie.
And you guys, but that's okay.
But again, that
it
articulates
works
like
now. I'm in my 30s.
Yeah, and I was at one time in my 30s.
Yeah. So I really like that. You mentioned though the Paul Rudd thing. I think the weirder thing is them having sort of a like they are or aren't separate. Like you have people in your life that are like the exact same relationship that the two of them are, and the idea of you becoming romantically involved with him is
yeah. I had
Exactly.
a stepbrother, but then my mom divorced him, so he's like, I always call him my ex-stepbrother.
Yeah.
There was that point like late in the movie where she very pointedly said to him, "You're not my brother," and it was before they kind of like declared any feelings for each other. But you knew that they were leading up to that. Like it was almost like the movie is making very clear, hey, just in case we weren't clear before, they are not related. This is okay.
You're not my brother.
Yeah, and I made a note thinking about it while I was watching it for this podcast, and I'm not going to talk about my own personal interests or anything like that. That's not where I'm going. But there is, as I know, a high level of, in terms of kinks, at least for pornography watched, sort of well known that the step family fantasy is like a high volume thing. And I'm like, knowing timeline wise, people who watch and thinking about when this movie came out, I'm wondering if this movie helped contribute to like
Clueless maybe helped kick off a whole genre of porn.
Yes, yeah. I think we can thank Paul Rudd and Alicia Silverstone.
We can.
Yeah, I mean,
thank them every day.
I get it. They're a couple.
Yeah, I would say special shout out to this movie for having two hot Jews make out, and I can say that because I am Jewish. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying.
I appreciate the application.
Just wanted to clarify. Yeah.
Wait, I don't think we answered it earlier. Emily, do you remember the plot of Emma, whatever it's called?
Yes, Emma.
Yeah. So like, it is interesting that you said like, oh, Cher's dad and her have that kind of interesting relationship, because the plot of Emma is very similar. It's like, her single father. It's kind of like Disney princess, like, widower situation. And then it is kind of like a social society, like based. Jane Austen does a lot of writing around, the different hierarchies. And then there's like a new girl that comes in that she takes under her wing, and she tries to steer her towards like a suitable match. And so that's Ty. And that's when I like started to put the pieces together. I was like, like a movie I saw. But yeah, no, Clueless is definitely way better. So
Sorry,
You
Jane.
heard it here first, everyone.
So I keep looking down. I wrote down some notes. That's what I'm doing when I look.
Oh, that's okay. But we were just on the note of Amy Heckerling is better than Jane Austen. That's the summary that I have.
Sure. Yeah. I would
I
go
want
with
to
that.
say Dion is so beautiful. I said that the whole time we were watching the movie last time, and she wasn't in anything really after this.
I think she might have been in like one or two things, but definitely not a deep IMDb for Stacey.
I think Stacey Dash kind of went off the rails a bit in her personal life.
Oh,
yeah.
You hate to hear that. That's sad.
It's funny because her
I did not know
character
that.
is they're very like reality show, always screaming at each other, then always hooking up.
Yeah, the relationship is so funny, and I love
Turk.
What's his actual name? I'm trying to think.
Donald Faison.
Yeah, Donald Faison is so funny.
Yeah.
He's on Scrubs later, but yeah, he's great in this movie. He's so funny.
I have that note too. Yeah, Donald
He
Faison.
is very funny. He's
Everybody's perfect. Honestly, like there's
Perfect
no weak link in the whole cast. Like I love Dan Hedaya, like the dad.
Yep.
Love him so much in everything he's in. Like every line he says is just gold. Like in anything, not just in this. It's just the way he talks is so funny. It's so like
dry
and just commanding and just kind of yelling every line that he has. It's great.
Yes. He seems like a litigator, as she says, like every single time he speaks. Exactly. There's also a brilliant moment where he does a bit of acting without any words. And it's the moment Paul Rudd goes chasing after Cher. Okay, you guys are nodding like you know what I'm about to say. Mm-hmm. There's this moment where he like looks up at Paul Rudd as Paul Rudd's leaving, and it's just sort of that knowing look of like, I know why you're actually going to go chase after Cher. And he knows that there's already something developing between the two of them. Yeah. Before either of them even do.
Yeah, he signs off on it. He signs off on
brother
sister love.
Right?
What is the relationship in Emma? Like, is it like, because I can't imagine that there's that exact same, been married before, have a gentleman.
Like, how long were they together for?
It's been like 10 years since I read it. So
they grow up, like together, and then
I think the less you think about it, the better. You just don't want to dive into that.
I feel like they just had to come up with some excuse for why he would be constantly in her house in a modern setting that would make sense. They were like, type of thing. Yeah.
Can I say a fun fact that I knew?
Please do.
It's not really a fact, but it's a fact.
Okay.
Donald Faison and Breckin Meyer, is that his name?
A non-fact fact.
Do you guys remember the movie Josie and the Pussycats?
Yes.
Obviously, Emily does. Okay. Do you know
Lauren is like, what?
Do you know
more vaguely than you do, but I have seen it.
I'll watch it again.
Sure. Remember the boy band that's in there that dies in a plane crash, but then doesn't die in a plane crash?
Oh, are they both in the band?
They're both in that band.
Oh, that's great. Who's the other member? It has to be somebody else from that era.
Two other ones. I can't remember.
It's Seth Green.
Oh, yes.
It's Seth Green because Breckin Meyer does a lot of Robot Chicken, and
that's right.
Donald Faison has been getting into stop motion, and like the three of them like hang out and do voices.
It all started here.
And stuff.
That's cool. Yeah. This is like maybe a fun.
This is defining. I did think, even though I like the relationship between Paul Rudd and Alicia Silverstone, the one thing that we sometimes criticize of movies that we see is like it starts off antagonistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just, there's a part of me that's like, I feel like we grew up being told, oh, it's just human nature. A boy who likes a girl is going to go pull on her pigtails. And as I've become an adult, I'm like, but do we do that by human nature, or do we do that because we just see it in things like movies where you have to have this antagonist relationship before the people get together? Like we often talk about, we love, Han and Leia. It's part of one of our sort of, examples or things that we use. We have tattoos of for our relationship. But if you really look at Han and Leia, that is not a healthy example of a relationship.
Well, I recently started reading books.
just started reading books. Never watched movies before, but that wasn't the problem. She didn't read books either.
But these romance books, it's the exact same plot every single time. It's like they're mean to each other, and then something makes them have this burning love for each other. I think it just creates more of a tension that they're like, you want to bring them together.
Okay.
It's like movie magic, it's like you need that. Yeah, you need that tension, like the will they, won't they, love hate thing.
Mm-hmm.
It just creates more drama, I guess, on screen. It makes you more emotionally invested, I think.
Ross and Rachel.
Yeah.
Rachel, Sam and Diane. Cheers.
Jess
Depends
and
on
Nick,
depends on which movie show you've been watching.
Jessica Day and Nick Miller.
Yep.
There you go.
I think we've now hit every single couple for the groups of people that may be listening to this podcast.
One of my favorite scenes, which is also, it's very realistic, like you were saying, Emily, like this is a very real movie
Yeah.
for the most part, is when she gets into the car with, what's his name? Elton.
Oh God.
He like forces himself on her, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so annoying, but very, very high school and very man.
Yeah.
But then she gets freaking like held up in the parking lot of that liquor store, and she's so calm, and she just doesn't want her outfit to be ruined. It's hysterical, but also a very scary like scene where I was like, if I was in that situation, holy cow, I'd be freaking out. And she's just like, like my outfit's dirty and now my phone is gone, so she has to call someone.
The stick-up guy was very polite. He did say thank you.
He also said, "I'll totally shoot you in the head."
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah.
She said it's a totally important designer, and he's like, "I'll totally shoot you in the head."
He did say that. I didn't buy it though. He seemed like a sweetie.
She's like not even scared in that moment though. She's just annoyed.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows more about her character and how like kind of badass she is. She's
Yeah,
like,
resilient.
Oh my God.
For sure.
Well, are there any other notes or anything that you all had that you wanted to share?
Well, I mean, we did not talk about rolling with the homies at all. And
Rolling with the homies.
yeah, the way that Brittany Murphy, rest in peace, we love Brittany Murphy. The way that she sadly, after Elton not really dumps her, but after that ends, and the way that she sadly says, "Rolling with the homies," is just something that has like rattled around in my brain ever since I originally saw this movie. Like I think about it at least once a month. I love it so much. It's amazing. The way that she does the hand motion.
I love you sharing that, because I kind of thought about writing something down about that, because it is one of those moments that I remember from the very first time. And like, I never knew that song, didn't care about that song, never knew any other lyrics to that song, but I knew rolling with the homies only because of her performance in that.
Yeah. I don't know if that song exists outside of this movie, because I've never actually heard it anywhere but this movie.
And if it did, you would karaoke to it.
I would, sadly.
Just keep saying that one line though, over and over again.
Of course.
She is so cute in this movie. It is very sad whatever happened to her.
Yeah.
She has my favorite line in the movie where she calls Cher. She's like, "You're a virgin who can't drive."
You're a virgin who can't drive.
Why should I even listen to you anyway?
It's so fun. Yeah. There's just, the classic lines in here are just, I wrote down when Brittany Murphy says, "Oh, you guys talk like grown-ups," and then Cher says, "It's a really good school."
I don't even think I got that.
Yes.
Except they're never, ever, ever paying attention in class. Those kids are like, I don't know, on their phones.
Oh yeah. This is
phones.
My other thought was like, is this the first instance in pop culture movies where, like, I mean, obviously cell phones were around before this, but was this the first movie where they were used so casually?
I think so. Because I can remember people in school, because this would have been, like it was like they would reference this. They would say, "You don't want to be the Valley Girl. You don't want to be like Cher, like from the movie, like Clueless, like," you know what I mean? Or that was the idea. Or, you can't have your cell phones out like they have in the movie Clueless. There'd be things like that were shared, that were shared.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was like everything was a parody of LA, like the high school. Like there was a bunch of girls, I don't know if you guys noticed this, that had like nose jobs. Like they had and like when they're like in the gym class uniforms, like all of those outfits were just very impractical.
And the outfits that Amber wears, she wears like puffy things and like sailor outfits and
Ambular.
Yeah, they call her Ambular, which I never picked up on until this rewatch.
Why do they call her Ambular?
Why do they suddenly become frenemies?
They always were frenemies, I feel like. And Amber kind of, well, it's interesting because Amber kind of takes on Cher's, like she tries to she hates Cher, but then she wears her outfits, and then she tries to befriend Ty towards the end, and Cher gets jealous. It's like I think there's like a underlying bisexual tension between Amber and Cher. Possibly. Like it's really interesting because I feel like there wasn't a lot of like exploring female bi relationships and like, you know, rom-coms and like all these like mean girl situations. And it's like, I feel like there's a lot of this like underlying tension here.
I just like the
sleepovers, so
yeah. I just liked how that was like unexplained. Like you knew there was a lot of history that they didn't even have to talk about.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of there on the surface. I like that. What else, man? Just like I think getting back to like the love story and all that. Like one of the reasons we picked this movie was because this kind of overlap for us. It was a movie that we both like drew upon from adolescence, but not all of the pop culture references translated. There are some things
here for this.
So the Mentos commercial. You've never seen a Mentos commercial.
Mentos.
Yeah. Great.
Danielle's shrugging too, everyone. Me and Lorne are like, yeah, I know that what you're talking about. And the two of them are like, what? Huh?
I know it from Clueless. Like
kind of a Baldwin. Because you only knew, she was like, who are they talking about? I'm like, well, like the Baldwin brothers. You only knew them as like, you only knew Alec Baldwin as like an old man, Rock, basically.
Yeah.
30 Rock. And Marky Mark. There's a Marky Mark reference.
You didn't know
Funky Bunch.
You didn't know Marky Mark?
I know like Mark Wahlberg, but I didn't like know the Marky Mark days really.
When he was a joke, like back when Mark Wahlberg was considered just like a joke. Before he's
check out my moves, check out moves while the DJ revolves it.
Exactly.
That's Vanilla Ice. I'm mixing them up. I mean, what's the one that he was like famously like he's jacked and he's like it's black and white and he's by a chain link fence and his ass is hanging out.
Isn't that shoot?
It was like his one big hit that actually was big for Marky Mark and the Fun.
That was huge. I can't remember the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
There's people listening to this right now that are just like screaming at their phones.
Yeah, it's always the worst.
Good vibrations.
Yes, good vibrations.
There you go.
The Beach Boys cover.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh wow, look at this funky bunch right here.
They're the funkiest of bunches.
I also when she had to go to the driver's test, and sorry, I just had this randomly. I noticed it's my most capable outfit. Such a good line.
We didn't talk about driving at all, but when she just like ends up on the freeway.
Oh my
god, that was like the most realistically terrifying scene. That like it brought me back to the first time I ever merged on the freeway, and I feel like I was going like 50 miles an hour, and like thank God there wasn't a giant truck behind me.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, there's a lot of things like that in this movie, like around driving specifically, like that scene, and then just how terrible of a driver Cher is and the multiple times that they show it.
Yes.
That like I had no real reference to and therefore didn't stick for me the first several times I'm sure I watched this movie. Whereas now I'm like a capable driver, an adult, and I'm like, oh my God, get this person off the road.
Complete, just sociopath on the road, just smashing into cars, not realizing it. It's great.
Good movie. I think that this movie also has been parodied a bajillion times, or like has seen, like we were talking about Legally Blonde, is seen in a lot of pop culture. After this movie, and I don't think I realized it till we rewatched it recently.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that was another thing I wanted to ask was like, Clueless may be like the definitive high school movie of the 90s. There are plenty of like definitive 80s high school movies. Maybe
Mean
like
Girls.
Mean Girls from like the aughts, like kind of the satirical high school movie. Like, what would be that for the 2010s?
Ooh.
Was there one? I pulled up a list earlier actually, and I looked at it, and most of them were garbage. There were a couple of good ones, but
yeah, that is like kind of a genre that maybe has died. Its peak I think was in the 90s. Because like you think about like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was directed by the same person. That's like 82, 83. So that's 80s, and it's like it's starting to kind of have those types of things. And then there's like Can't Hardly Wait, which had Seth Green, and then there's
Never Been Kissed.
Never Been Kissed. That would have been
really
the 2000s though, not the 2010s.
Yeah,
it was like a popular thing, and then I feel like it's died out though.
They still exist, but the top three were Booksmart. This list that I pulled up, I don't remember. Booksmart, Easy A, and
High School Musical.
Lady Bird. Oh, Lady Bird.
See, and that's why like Lady Bird, especially, you put that on that list. Lady Bird is like not something I would put in the same type category of something.
I agree. Like, yeah, it's a little more prestige or something.
Yeah, we need
same
more movies like this. Yeah.
Blockers. I say Blockers.
Blockers would be and it is also very good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Blockers has
iconic,
the same I think it's the same actress in Blockers who's in Freaky that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, is it? Okay. I gotta
John
revisit
Cena.
that.
She's also been in, what is it, Pretty Little Liars? Or no, not Pretty Little Liars. What's the one with Reese Witherspoon?
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies. I always confuse those two. She plays
line.
Very different, but same word.
yeah. Similar names, not similar products.
Yes.
Pretty Big Little Lies.
Yeah, Pretty Big Lies.
Liars that lie.
All right. Well, should we do our summary, our recap, our final ratings?
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah, this is it's almost 10 o'clock, movie lovers, so it's getting too late over
I
here.
gotta pack my lunch again, you know?
All right. So if you're a new listener, we've gotten some of those recently from our trailer reactions. So thank you. What we're going to do next is we're going to go around the table here, and we're each going to provide a 0 to 5 heart rating, which is meant to be some form of an objective summary of what we think, how the quality of this movie is. And then we're going to say whether we're going to renew our vows, whether we would actually watch this movie again some other time. Dani, why don't you kick us off?
Great. 5 out of 5. This is great. I love this movie. It is classic. Would I watch it again? Yeah, we watched it 2 weeks ago, and then we just watched it again today, and I would do it again tomorrow. Is this movie, like you were saying at the beginning, the writing, the acting, the reality of how stupid it is, but it's so wonderful. It's just perfect. So yes, I love it. Thanks for picking this movie and not your murder movie.
We'll come back for Murders next year.
All right, Lauren, what do you give it?
I gotta go 5 out of 5. It's a classic. It's an all-timer. It's just endlessly rewatchable. I would renew my vows in a heartbeat. I would watch this movie again this week. Yeah, no, I love it. It's amazing. So quotable. Like, yeah, every actor is great and on point, perfectly cast, just super well written. Music's great. Everything's awesome.
All right.
You gonna go, Nick?
I guess I can go. Yes. I was going to cheat and make all three of you go, but you two alone, regardless of where Emily lies, have convinced me. I was waffling between a 4.75 and a 5. I don't often give out perfect ratings.
I don't think you've ever given a perfect rating.
I think we have one other movie that maybe I just recently gave a perfect rating to, I believe. But I am surprised to admit it myself. I definitely would renew my vows. Danielle did not, as much as she just said she did. She did not watch this whole movie again, only 2 weeks later. I watched it from start to finish all over again so I could do notes. And was surprised at how much I was able to enjoy it that soon after. And it is because of all the reasons that Lauren just said. Nope, perfect. Can't think of a criticism that's actually genuinely levied, and it holds up. So 5 out of 5, would renew my vows. Emily, what do you got?
Love it. Yeah, no, 5 out of 5 for me too. I'm excited that everyone loved it so much because I feel like maybe this was my pick. Like I think I steered the ship on this one. But no, I feel like I haven't laughed that hard rewatching Clueless, and it's like I've seen it probably like 30 times when we watched it, and so yeah, it holds up. I feel like I'll continue to rewatch it and renew my vows with it many times in the future.
I think this is our first movie that every single person has been like, this
That
is
is definitely the
classic,
case.
this is iconic, 5 out of 5.
Yeah,
so.
we've never had all four give a 5 out of 5.
Wow, 20 out of 20.
All right, well, there you go, movie lovers. You heard it here. If you've never seen the movie Clueless, because I know there's some of our younger listeners, go do yourself a favor. It does hold up. I think you'll actually enjoy it. There's stuff to be there, even if the sort of dated references, it may exist. So with that, Lauren, Emily, I know you all aren't necessarily in the space of content creation, but is there anything you'd like to plug or tell people to find you at, or anything you're willing to share for our listeners?
Lauren has a Letterboxd.
Oh yeah, you follow me on Letterboxd. That's good. I was just gonna be like no, but yeah.
No, I mean we're both kind of off social media too. But yeah, for any movie recommendations, Lauren has some good ones on Letterboxd.
Yeah. You can find me there. If you want, I'm L Bobrin at Letterboxd. Go for it. Go nuts, guys.
There you go. I love it. All right. And Dani, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, come see me at Second City. I think Emily's maybe coming.
I'm coming Thursday.
Yep.
Woo!
Every Thursday through Comedy Sports. What else do I do? Take my fitness classes.
Yeah.
Follow me at Dani Miami 4 for laughs and inappropriate content. Yeah.
That's for Danny. It is only Dani Miami 4 on Instagram. Do not follow Dani Miami 4 on Twitter. You will not enjoy the content.
It was taken over.
You might enjoy it.
no.
no.
Well, now I'm gonna check that out.
It won't be Danny.
It's not me, I swear.
Yeah, no, Danny just kind of breezed by that. But if you live in near the Beverly neighborhood or South Side Chicago, she does some cool yoga sculpt type stuff, and you should check that out as well. All right, movie lovers, you can follow me at Nick Loves Movies. That's NICLUV, Nick Loves Movies, on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow our Instagram and Twitters for the podcast at the letter N Love with Movies. That's N Love with Movies. And you can email us at In Love with Movies, same thing, at the letter N Love with Movies at gmail.com. I'm trying to get better at this, doing it here. We used to do these plugs as a pre-recorded thing. What else? So you can send us an email. We want to hear from you. Give us a 5-star review. You can find us on Patreon if you want to get some sort of behind the curtain, more in-depth reviews of more recent movies, mostly from me. And actually, more than anything, just give us a like and a retweet, or reach out to us on one of these social media platforms. Share us. If you enjoy listening to our ridiculousness, or enjoy feeling like you're having a conversation about relationships with your friends and maybe learn something, please just share it with somebody else who you think might enjoy it. That's all I ask.
I love you, Nick.
I love you, Danny.
We love you, Lauren and Emily.
Love you.
We love you, movie lovers.
Ooh, let's all make out. I'm going to pretend you're Paul Rudd.
Bye-bye.